And can we all rise for a prayer by Councilman Crissati?
Good evening. May we celebrate tonight the beginning of Black History Month. The theme is African Americans and labor. May we inspire each of us to work more faithfully for justice and dignity of life everywhere. May we remember the hurts of exclusion and prejudice, but we know that we can rise our vision above all barriers and give us wisdom and courage to make this a better community and society. At this time, I would like to have a moment of silence for the families and victims who are tragically lost their lives in these two plane and helicopter accidents that happened in D.C. and Philadelphia. And a thank you to the brave first responders and emergency personnel on those scenes. Thank you.
Thank
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, in the event of a fire and emergency, there's two means of exiting the council chambers: exit out the rear doors and walk a safe distance away from the building, or exit out the side doors and go down one flight of stairs and out the rear of the building, also a safe distance. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Point of
Excuse
order,
me, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, we need to
We need a
Sorry.
roll call.
Jesus. Trying to move. Roll call, please.
Councilor Crissati,
Thanks, Bob.
Here.
Councilor Hendrickson,
Here.
Councilor Ludwig,
Here.
Councilor Mangini. Here. Councilor Nasuda,
Here.
Mayor Nelson,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Pisner. Here. Councilor Russo,
Here.
Councilor Santinella,
Here.
Councilor Ungary. Here. And Councilor Sakala. Here. 11 members are present, none are absent.
Thank you, Sheila. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 21st, 2025.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Are there any comments, corrections, or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Thank you. Tonight, we have no special guests, so we will move right into the public communication and petitions. Any person who wishes to address the council shall first be recognized by the chair and shall state their name and address for the record. They shall limit their remarks to 5 minutes. After each person who desires has had the chance to speak, those desiring to speak a second time will be permitted to do so and shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. During public communications, item 7 on the agenda, public members shall limit their remarks to 2 rounds, 8 minutes. During public communication, item 16 on the agenda, if prior to 11 p.m., each person shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Public communication shall be limited to 1 hour unless extended by a majority vote of the council. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any individual member. All remarks addressed to the administration of the town shall be addressed to the town manager and not an individual employee. Public members shall observe proper decorum and good conduct and shall refrain from personalities and improper language. Anyone like to come up and speak? Anyone? George.
Is it on? Good evening. George Young, 8 Holly Lane. Let's start off tonight by saying what a good job of plowing was done this morning, at least in my area. I could hear the banging of the plow as it went up and down our street, and hope that next year will be much quieter and smoother ride for the gentleman doing the job. I see no resolution tonight to fund the live streaming of the Charter Revision Committee. At the January 9th meeting of the Commission, Commissioner Fiore suggested recording or live streaming the meetings in the interest of transparency. It was again discussed at the January 23rd meeting and voted upon. Chairman Nelson indicated that IT would be submitting a budget to the town council at their next meeting for a vote. He also properly reminded the commissions that expenditures of taxpayer dollars should go through the town council. At the January 30th meeting of the revision committee, it was again discussed. This should have been resolved last September 2024, when the resolution to create the Charter Revision Committee was done and funds included by the council to support this at that time. As you know, many people do not attend the meetings because they have a personal life, but would watch the video similar to the council meetings. The next meeting for the commission is scheduled for February 13th, so perhaps it could be approved and funded by then if it has not already been done separately by the council. As will be stated later tonight, there is still some money left in the contingency fund. I would like to clarify something said at the January council meeting. Mayor Nelson stated that he is in support of the transfer of the pickleball court to the annex, and the cost would be about $300,000, which I don't object to. He suggested that he would be in favor of taking the approved budget amount of $125,000 from the senior volunteer tax credit fund and using that money towards it. He stated that some of those people that would be getting the credit have more than enough money already. How can anyone on this council know the personal situation of these people? It is an attack on a few to eliminate the credit to all the senior volunteers, which is unfair. I would like to add that the budget for the program was $100,000, not $125,000. Then the mayor, who is also chairman of the Charter Revision Commission meetings, proposed a stipend for elected officials at the commission meeting also in January. The beauty of our town government is that it is based on volunteerism. I'm sure there would be more elected officials that meet the mayor's statement of more than enough money, since many are still working at a much higher compensation than retired seniors. The Board of Education's meeting on January 28th was very informative because there is a new sheriff in town, and he seems to be willing to take a vastly different approach to the budget. Last year, I was very critical of the BOE budget because I saw no effort made to actually look at the expenses, but to only copy that which was presented from the prior year, which I believe I mentioned that about 38 categories of expenses had no change at all. I'm expecting a much different report this year, and the council will be given the detail it needs to formalize a good budget. Having said that, I would be in favor of the council forgiving half of the portion of the loan the board is to pay back over a 5-year period and rewrite that agreement. It would be another gesture of good faith also. Today, the governor asked to have millions of dollars transferred to help the school's ECS program, so hopefully that will help the BOE. The town has approved and budgeted for the review of the BOE's internal control system this year. I would suggest that the council subject the town to the same thing and budget it for the next year. In addition, I believe the job of internal auditor should be added as a new position in the finance department because we have the complexities of this town and its budgetary monitoring that need more eyes than we have now. If you read the comments from the audits, there are repeated comments from the prior reports that still need to be addressed. Is there any projected date that the June 30th, 2024 audit will be completed? Thanks for listening.
Sir?
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Paul Grusevsky. I live at 1 Martin Terrace, Enfield, Connecticut. We're speaking about item 12, I believe it is, on the agenda. I just want to read my statement because it's probably the easiest thing to do, and I have a copy if you'd like me to put it in for the record. Good evening. I'm here to express my disapproval of the plans to change Martin Terrace, specifically the removal of the odd side sidewalks, which are referred to as the westerly side, and the relocation of the even side and the change of the trajectory of the road. I've lived at Martin Terrace for 33.25 years. The road is, and has been for well over 25 years, in desperate need of new surface and sidewalks. I've seen the road maintenance people maybe a half a dozen times in the 33 years, patching holes and patching the sidewalk. I have 5 children, and the reason I'm going to mention these children is because it bears on the sidewalk issue. They've all attended. I've had 5 children. I now have 3 new adopted children, including a 5-year-old. They use the sidewalk to walk to the bus stop. The bus stop, as my understanding, is that the bus fully blocks the road so that no cars can come in while the children are entering the bus. When they do this, the bus door is on the westerly side. Therefore, the sidewalk is very essential for the bus stop. I don't know if it's a law, but that's the way it's been since I've been there. If the sidewalks were removed, the children would have to cross the street, walk up the sidewalk, and then cross the street again to get to the designated bus stop. I find that to be a safety issue, and this applies to the 7 children that are on the westerly side of Martin Terrace. Additionally, as usually the case, none of the sidewalks on the easterly side ever get shoveled, which would make it even worse that they would be traveling through snow during the winter years. That's my concern about the changing of the sidewalk. Concerning the snow shelf, as I indicated, 33 years of living on Martin Terrace, the street has been satisfactorily plowed and passable. There's never been a need for the snow shelf, and the only thing that would make the road cleaner is if it had a new surface that wasn't full of potholes, and then the plows could go through it evenly. As you all know, the road's been dug up about 3 times, never repaved, just patched. As you all know, Martin Terrace is a one-way street with a speed limit of 20. It also provides a horseshoe shortcut to Elm Street for many on a daily basis, especially during the high traffic times, when Hazard Avenue is congested and backed up almost to the growth company. The persons using this shortcut neither obey the posted speed limit nor are aware of the number of children that live on the street. Also, we still see daily wrong-way drivers. There's been accidents, including head-on, people coming in from Hazard Avenue and going the wrong way up Martin Terrace. Changing the trajectory of the road would probably only compound this. More people would be flying through. By removing the odd side sidewalks, those drivers would also be within 30 feet of my front door, possibly increasing the noise level or the risk of errant drivers going through my yard. Speed bumps probably would be a better option, but probably impractical. Lastly, although I do not know the actual dollar amount for the cost of the proposed project, it surely seems that after the recent cuts to educational budgets, there have got to be better ways to spend the taxpayers' money than ripping up sidewalks and straightening out a road that's been functioning fine since 1929. I respectfully urge you to consider the ramifications of the proposal and possible alternatives to improve the road without the loss of the odd side sidewalks, as well as to listen to what my neighbors might have to say on this matter before making your final decision. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else? Sir.
Hi, I'm Mike Rinaldi from 12 Martin Terrace at the other end of the street that Paul is from. I wanted to say I am in favor of this. We've been at the property for about 23 years now, When we had moved in, the Realtor had said that there had been a lot of conversation in town for quite a number of years because it was originally designed as a terrace. A terrace typically is a two-way street that has a way of planting in between the two lanes. That's certainly not feasible with the properties up at the top of the street where Paul is. Down at my side of the street, it was feasible to the point that they put the sidewalk in as a straight shot, so it's about 10 feet off of my front yard, or off my front door, and then there's about 20, 25 feet to the edge of the road. That's always been a problem. It leaves a very short driveway. Our vehicles park over the sidewalk. We have nowhere else to park, which is a hazard in and of itself, too. So I am in favor of the redirection of the road. I think by the additional curve that they're putting into the road is going to slow traffic down because it is a slightly sharper curve. I think doing things because we've always done them is never the way to move forward. I think the road needs to have curbs. I think a snow shelf is a good idea, especially by relocating the sidewalk closer to the road. I think certainly Paul has a valid concern. I had noticed that somebody at the top of the street had put a little bench up there for the school bus. My daughters have aged out of the school system, but I totally agree that it is a safety issue, that maybe it's something that a concrete pad or something could be implemented, or a certain portion of the sidewalk could remain, or if it's a smaller, narrower pedestrian walk that's suitable for school children at the top of the street. But at the bottom of the street, I think shifting the sidewalk makes sense rather than when the road kind of curves this way and the sidewalk does this. It's a rough use of space, and like I said, we park across the driveway. As far as moving catch basins and adjusting those, and again adding curbs, I think is a good idea because they always seem to fill up with debris. The plow inevitably digs up what grass I have, and because I am at the bottom of the street and it does bank a little bit to the left, mud ends up everywhere in the winter time. So I think curbs are a great idea. Relocating power poles is a necessity. I don't know if we direct questions to the committee here or to the engineers. I have several questions that could be brought up as far as the work, when it's supposed to start, what's going to be the interruption of the power. But I think overall this is a valid plan, and I know things are tight space-wise at the top of the street, but I know only one side of a street needs a sidewalk, not necessarily both. But at the top of the street, I think that would definitely be a benefit to the people with children and school buses. I'd just like to say, too, in agreement with Paul, people whip down the street a lot quicker than they should. It's got an incline, but it's not enough for them to lose control going down. But I think that greater bank would be helpful. I think, and again, like Paul said, speed bumps might be an issue, or a speed table, or certainly something at the end where it connects into Elm Street. A couple signs don't seem to keep people from going up the wrong way, but if there was also something across the road that said something like a speed table and prevent people from accessing, if it's something more prominent, that would certainly be helpful. But when you see, even public service vehicles blow down the street, it's definitely a concern. People have children, people have pets. Sometimes, you kind of have to rush to get them off the street. So that is definitely a concern. But overall, I'm in favor for the plan. I just think maybe a little more thought, a little more tweaking for the school children at the top of the street are in order. But as far as my property at the end, I am thrilled to see the sidewalk move further towards the street because I don't want to have to park on that. Kids riding their bikes, I don't want them smacking into my car, and they don't need to smack into my car either. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, ma'am.
Good evening, Brenna Grimson, 37 Grant Road. I'm a parent of 2 children in the Enfield Public Schools. I'm here tonight to speak to you all about my son's experience in his classroom this year. He is currently in the 5th grade at Parkman School, where he is in a class of 29 children. Imagine that for 6 hours a day. And if you can't, let me shed some light on what school has been like for him and his peers this year. Last year, this council voted to not approve our school's budget, causing our town to lose over 90 teachers, administrators, and support staff. We knew this year was going to be a hard one. We knew it was going to look different, but we had no idea how bad it was really going to be. Last year, in the 4th grade at Parkman School, we had 5 teachers. My son had a small class of 16 students. With the help of my son's teacher, we discovered he has ADHD. While last year was difficult in terms of coming to the realization that our son's brain works differently than a typical brain, together with his teacher, our school's social workers, administrators, and support staff, we were able to provide him with the supports he needed in order to learn. We set him up with a 504 plan that helped him learn in different ways that work for him and his brain. We were so proud of him and the progress that he made last year. All of the support he received in school made that happen, and for all of those involved in facilitating that support, we're truly thankful. Fast forward to our current school year. About 3 weeks into the year, during a conversation before bed, which as a parent, you may know that this is when your children will typically communicate their feelings. Our son broke down. He said, and I quote, "I have no clue what is going on in school. I don't even know what we're learning." And through tears, he said, "I don't think I'm going to make it to the 6th grade." As you can imagine, my husband and I were very concerned. We immediately set up a meeting with his teacher to discuss our concerns. We also moved up his 504 meeting to be sure his needs were still being met. Our son's teacher was lucky in the fact that she did not lose her job last year. However, she was placed in a new school, teaching a new grade and subject with a new syllabus she had never seen. On top of all of those challenges, she has a class of 30 students and numerous challenging behaviors in the class which frequently disrupt the learning environment. It seemed as if she was drowning, and who wouldn't be? These children went from having 5 teachers in the 4th grade to having 3 teachers in the 5th grade. Every other grade at Parkman School has 4 teachers. However, the 5th grade has the most students in our school. How did this happen? These teachers are supposed to be preparing our 5th graders for middle school next year. After seeing our son's scores on his fall testing, we reached out to our school's math specialist, who had worked with our son in previous years, hoping he would qualify for extra help and be able to learn in a small group setting, which, as you can imagine, is ideal for students with ADHD who struggle with focus. Unfortunately, our son did not qualify as he was not in the bottom 25% of his grade. We have hired a private tutor to help him with math. My son is fortunate to have parents who have the ability to advocate for him and to pay for private services so that he doesn't fall further behind. What about the children who are not as fortunate? Who is going to fight for them? I am a product of the Enfield Public Schools. I was born and raised in this town. After graduating from Sacred Heart University, I returned to my hometown to help run my family's business and to begin to raise a family of my own. When it came time for my son to attend kindergarten in the fall of 2019, there was no doubt in my mind that I would be sending him to public school. I was excited, I was hopeful, and I was confident he would receive a proper education and have a wonderful school experience as I had so many years ago. My son was in kindergarten when COVID shut our world down. I don't have to tell anyone what life in school was like for these children in the few years following COVID. Not one child in our town or any town had what is considered to be a typical school experience. Last year was the first year that my husband and I truly felt like our son's school experience was what it should be. I am begging you, the members of this council, to put our children first. In a matter of weeks, you will be voting on whether or not to approve our school's proposed budget. Hear my words and know it's not just my son who's struggling, it's our entire town. I am sick and tired of pointing fingers and fighting between parties. We need to come together and do what is right for our children. They are the most important members of our community. They are our future. It is my hope that we properly educate these children, we teach them compassion and understanding towards others, we encourage them to become leaders who may one day have a seat in this room and will have the ability to make decisions about what is best for our town. We must care for them, we must invest in their education, and we must lift them up. A few weeks ago, my husband and I met with our school's principal to voice our concern. I'm almost done. Yes. Okay, I will.
Pam?
Pam Townsend, 54 Kimberly Drive, and I'm here representing the Enfield Veterans Council. And I'm hoping for some assistance in locating some very special people that live in our community. In partnership with the Connecticut Veterans Affairs Commissioner, Ron Welch, and Major General Francis Yvonne of the Connecticut National Guard, the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, Susan Beitzowitz, will host a ceremony to thank members of the Greatest Generation. The ceremony is scheduled for Monday, May 19, 2025, beginning at 11 a.m. at the Governor William A. O'Neill State Armory, located at 360 Broad Street in Hartford. All World War II veterans are invited to attend. The town of Enfield is working with Enfield's veteran organizations to contact all World War II veterans currently residing in the town of Enfield. If you are or you know of a veteran that served in our military during December 7th, 1941 through December 31st, 1946, you are requested to contact the Enfield Town Clerk, Sheila Bailey, at 860-253-6438, or email Sheila at sbailey@enfield.org. The veterans' information must be received by April 5th, 2025, in order for us to coordinate with Lieutenant Governor Beisowitz's office. Transportation will be provided from the town of Enfield to the State Armory for the veteran and one escort. The ceremony will commemorate the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, which ended in September 1945. In the words of Lieutenant Governor Beitzowitz, it's important to thank these members of the Greatest Generation, as it is because of their service and sacrifice that we live in a free and democratic state and nation today. We hope the Enfield community will help us identify every World War II veteran residing in Enfield, and that includes in our assisted living communities as well. For veterans that do not reside in Enfield, it is recommended that you contact your town clerk for details. This is a statewide, all 169 communities in Connecticut did receive an invitation and a request from Lieutenant Governor's office. So please reach out to your town clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Anyone else? Lucian?
Lucian Lefebvre, 54 Kimberly Drive, also Commander, American Legion Post 154. I'd like to invite the public to attend American Legion Post 154's 75th Annual Four Chaplains Mass at 10 o'clock on Sunday, February 9th at St. Patrick's Church. This is to honor the memory of 4 military chaplains who gave up their lives to save others when the USAT Dorchester was sunk by a German submarine on February 2nd, 1943. There were 2 Protestant ministers, a Catholic priest, and a Jewish rabbi on the Dorchester. Of the 4, right now, 2 have headstones in Arlington National Cemetery. And a member of the cemetery staff is working to get the other 2 to have headstones at the National Cemetery. The reason for the delay is there were no bodies. So the 2 that were there, they found out that they need to be requested by the oldest next of kin of each of the families. And the chaplains couldn't receive the Medal of Honor, which initially they wanted to give them, because they were non-combatants. So later on, there was a chaplain's medal developed, which is equivalent to the Medal of Honor for the non-combatants. So I'm asking you, please join us Sunday at 10 o'clock to honor, remember, and learn more about these four heroes. The story will continue during the service at St. Pat's on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucian. Sir. Doesn't matter.
Good evening, Eric Druin, 221 Broadbrook Road. A couple of concerns to bring up. First one's around public safety. As some of you know, there was a terrible accident where Abbey Road meets Broadbrook Road at the flashing yellow light. Again, constant issue at that light. Seems like CTDOT won't address it or fix it. You know, it's a state road. Wondering, is there anything town of Enfield can do? One suggestion, can we block off Abbey Road east of that light where it meets the town line? Cut off the shortcut, force traffic to use Route 140, which has a full light. That's one idea. Again, I'm not a traffic engineer. Maybe there's other ideas there. On the topic of road traffic safety, driving around town, you can't help but notice predominantly Amazon vans parked in the road, the flashing lights on, causing what I consider traffic hazard, if nothing else, delay of time. For what? For Jeff Bezos to make an extra profit for his people to run around instead of properly parking a driveway? I don't know. But that seems like a big traffic safety concern that could be addressed. Why is that allowed? You know, it seems like that should be a no-brainer. You know, pass an ordinance, maybe stop that. Moving on for recreation, nice to see that site work has started on Town Farm Road for the extension of the multi-use path. That's going to go to Broadbrook Road. I think that's long overdue. Looking forward to construction starting soon. Eventually enjoy that trail later this year, hopefully. And again, I'd love to see that connect to a rail trail someday. I'm very heartened to see item 13D on the agenda. So it looks like we got some progress that we can make there. So I fully support that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jose Barrios, 5 Martin, in regards to Agenda 12 about the sidewalk on the westerly side. I'm against it. I have lived there for about 7 years now. I have 3 children. 2 out of the 3 go up to the bus stop as well. And for the 7 years that I've lived there, it's been a blessing. It's a quiet street for the most part. I do agree with the cars flying down the road and using the road improperly. We definitely could use an extra one-way sign in the middle of the road. Like around my house, it's kind of like in the middle. That would be great to have another one-way reminder on which way to go. But not also my children having a safe place to get up to the sidewalk and stand. My neighbor Paul put that wooden bench so we can have a nice place to sit on, which is very nice of him. But also the mailman has a safe place to walk on that side of the road. I don't understand why we would want to take away one sidewalk when he needs an also safe place to walk and do his job as well. I have witnessed countless speeding drivers, and I would love a speed bump somewhere there as well. That would be very nice. And my property taxes are above the median of the national at 3.38. I think you definitely utilize this money a little bit better. I would love a new street keep our sidewalks. If you're not going to do anything about the street, there's nothing wrong with the sidewalks. We have never complained to the town about a snow shelf. This is just an agenda by the Department of Public Works that they're coming up with. My neighbor Paul stayed at 33 years, and he's only seen a handful of state workers there doing patch jobs. So if we're going to spend money on patches, just leave the road alone, along with the sidewalk. And to second the young lady's request of the budget of the Board of Education, let's make sure we focus on our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Anyone else for the first time? Brianna, you want to come back up? Brianna? Brenna. I'm sorry, Brenna.
Sorry, I was trying to keep it under 5, but just
Under
a
3 this time.
3. Okay, I just have a short part. A few weeks ago, my husband and I met with our school's principal to voice our concern about our son's classroom environment. In preparation for this meeting, I asked my son to describe his classroom in 3 words. His first word was destructive, his second word was loud, and his third word was annoying. As a parent sending your child to school, you should feel as if you're sending them into an environment that is A, safe, B, happy, and C, conducive to learning. If I'm being completely honest with you, I have not felt that way once this year. At this point, my concern about what he is learning has taken a back seat. Currently, my number one concern is his mental health. And that's so sad, and it hurts my heart every single day. If he were a different learner, I believe my husband and I would have pulled him from the public schools this year. In conclusion, I would now like to speak to every voting member of our Enfield community. Less than 30% of us voted in our last local election. It is so very important that you get to know your candidates, know what they stand for, and what they're going to fight for. Please get out and vote. Your voice matters. Pick the candidates who are going to invest in our children's well-being and in their future. We, every single one of us, have the power to elect leaders who will invest in our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to Councilman Communications. We'll start with you, John.
Thank you. So I do want to start with something that was left over from our last meeting. We had a discussion about the referendum question or the resolution regarding the School Modernization Committee. And I said in leadership, and I wanted to just set the record straight here. We had indicated that we did not receive the original resolution, which was, in fact, not the case. As I said to Mayor Nelson, we received an email from him on December 17th, and his note said, I'm passing this on from the Board of Ed. I'm not being accusatory, but that's all that it said. We didn't know, none of the 4 of us knew that you were looking for input. And so the next time we saw the resolution was after others had given their input, and we led members of the Board of Education on our side to believe that we didn't get it. That's not true. I just wanted to set the record straight about that. The truth is, we did have an opportunity to give our input. We had that discussion here, but I just felt it was important because other people were making claims that it wasn't right, and so we should set the record straight about that. So I just felt that was important. Anyways, we did talk about special education last time, and come to find out, there is going to be members of the legislature are going to be doing a listening session, a listening tour. The closest one to here is going to be on February 13th. at 2 p.m. in Hartford in the Legislative Office Building. Senator Kissel is one of the members of the special committee, and there's been several reports from the legislature on funding special ed. It's an opportunity for people here in Enfield who are concerned about special ed funding to go and voice their concerns to the special ed listening, the special ed committee in this listening tour. Also, in the cold and the snow, it's time to think about warm things. So the 4th of July committee is having their 19th annual dinner dance, which is March 22nd from 6 to 11 at the Elks Club Lodge. It's always a fun time, and money goes to a great cause for something that we all enjoy in the warmth in the middle of the summer. So if you can support that effort, I would encourage people to do so. And those are the 3 things I had for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Gina?
Nothing specific, just thank you to those residents of Martin Terrace that came up and gave us your opinion. I'm glad that you were able to get notice to come in and sort of tell us how you feel about it. And Brenna, my heart goes out to you and your family. And thank you very much for coming up and sharing your family's experience.
Thank you, Gina. Bob?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. First of all, to everybody that came up and spoke today, especially the people on Martin Terrace, giving your views, for and against. Definitely listen to both sides. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing what you consider safety issues. Okay, thank you for that. Also, to Brenna and your family, thank you. It takes courage to come up and speak the truth, and that's the truth. And I think we all heard you loud and clear. That's what good parents do. That's what good parents do when you think that things are not correct in the school system. Yes, the system was hit hard. We do have a budget that was presented to us. Not to us directly, but it was presented at the last Board of Ed meeting. We do have 127 fewer employees working this year than last year, and that's quite a bit. So when you come up and you talk about support staff, to be able to help, whether it's special education, kids that are on 504s, primarily with ADHD issues, and really heartfelt when your son comes home and states that destructive, annoying, can't concentrate. That's an issue, big time. All right, so when we look at support staff not being in schools, and I don't care what level we're talking about, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school, there's a hit. The administrators, in their proposed budget, stated for their schools to operate correctly, they wanted 92 additional staff. Superintendent only asked for 11 because he's feeling a budget constraint, whether it was 4.4 to keep everything at 0 or to have the 5.4 or 5.8, and he only asked for 11 additional staff when the administrators are asking for 92. There were set priorities that were given, and those were elementary classrooms and 1 JFK classroom. We talk about specialized programs. We're talking about social workers at each one of the schools. You brought up a key term, mental health. If we don't look in the mirror and think that all kids fit into a, what do they call it, a square peg, all right? if everybody can fit into that, doesn't work that way anymore. There are students that are out there, and if you have a class of 29, you have 29 different learning styles that are out there. So is there chaos in the classroom? Yes. We need more parents like you coming in front and telling their stories to people. I will tell you that years ago, I sat in front of a group of people to change things for kids with special education, primarily kids with autism. I had my job threatened, but I did what was right as a parent, and I'm still here. I'm still here. Nobody's getting rid of me. Not unless there's a contract somewhere. But I'd be on top of that. The other priority is extracurricular sports. You know, where are these priorities? Are we going to be going and begging people to do fundraisers so that we can have programs? Is that going to be the next one for the Rails to Trails because we don't have funding, that we're going to have people going around and say, well, to have Rails to Trails, it's going to be approximately $2 million, and we're going to start fundraising for that project? I don't know. So, but it takes a lot of courage for you to come up and talk about that. I got a little backtracked. Well, I don't apologize for that. And my last thing that I just want to state today is I want to thank you for everybody that donated to the Allied fundraiser event this past Saturday. Council people, Mr. Tyler, and you know, everybody that volunteered their time for this very worthy occasion. We had a great time. They raised a lot of money for the Special Olympics programs in town, and you know, next year we'll be doing the same thing. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Cosati. I was fortunate enough, along with some of my council colleagues, to attend the Sweetheart banquet for Allied. It was wonderful, tremendous event, and all of the people there had a good time, and I'm very grateful to have been able to attend. Thank you for that. I do want to also talk a little bit about Black History Month. Councilman Crosati did say some wonderful words when he was given the prayer, but I think that people need to understand a little more about Black History Month. It is an annual celebration of achievements by African Americans at a time for recognizing their role in our country's history. Also known as African American History Month, the event grew out of Negro History Week, and it was the brainchild of a historian named Carter Woodson and other prominent African Americans. Since 1976, every United States president has officially designated the month of February as Black History Month. Other countries around the world, including Canada and the United Kingdom, devote a month to celebrating Black history. And the story of Black History Month begins in 1915, half a century after our 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States. That September, Harvard-trained historian Carter Woodson and Jesse Moreland founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, which was an organization dedicated to researching and promoting achievement by Black Americans and other people of African descent. Known today as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, the group sponsored a Negro History Week in 1926, choosing the second week of February to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. And the event inspired schools and communities nationwide to organize local celebrations, establish history clubs, and host performances and lectures. In the decades that followed, mayors of cities across the country began issuing proclamations recognizing Negro History Week. By the late 1960s, thanks in part to the Civil Rights Movement and a growing awareness of Black identity, Negro History Week evolved into Black History Month. President Gerald Ford officially recognized Black History Month in 1976, calling upon the public to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every endeavor throughout our history. And today, Black History Month is a time to honor the contributions and legacy of African Americans across our United States history and society, from activists and civil rights pioneers like Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Malcolm X. So again, I just wanted to give a little bit of background so that we can always remember a little bit of our history. And speaking of history, our DAR chapter, Penelope Terry Abbey, is working very hard on the 250 celebration, and I'm going to be passing out, with your permission, Mayor, bookmarks. And I believe that Pam, one of our members in the audience, had 4,500 bookmarks printed. 3,000 were distributed to Enfield locations. There are 9 different topics were brought to the Enfield history at the library regarding the American Revolution. And these locations are the Central Library, Pearl Street Library, the Senior Center, at Snuntuck, and Town Manager's Office. So again, it's important that we remember our history. So I'll just pass these down. Thank you.
So Cindy, why don't you give me a handful of them? I'll pass them down, and Sheila can put them over there so anybody in the crowd could take one with them. This is plenty. Just pass them down. That's plenty. We're good. All right, thank you, Cindy. Jim, anything?
Yeah. First off, I'd like to congratulate our Post 154 commander for being inducted into the Connecticut State Veterans Hall of Fame recently. So I'd like to congratulate you on that. And I also attended the Allied Dance fundraiser to support Allied sports and recreation programs. I would like to recognize the staff and volunteers who worked hard putting together that wonderful event. And a special recognition for all the athletes in attendance. They had fun dancing the night away, and it was great to see. So I'd like to recognize all the athletes as well as all the volunteers and staff. So hats off to them. That's all.
Thank you, Jim. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to thank everyone that came out and spoke today. I know sitting at the table there isn't very easy. It wasn't too long ago where I was coming in front of council and addressing everyone, and I know it can be a very difficult experience. So appreciate everyone coming out. Thank you for that. One item I want to plug is for Buzz Robotics. They have an upcoming fundraiser. This is our award-winning Buzz Robotics team having a paint night fundraiser Saturday, February 15th at the Enfield Annex from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Last year, this is a team that did exceptionally well. They made it to the World Championships in Houston, Texas. Tickets are going to be $35 for adults, $30 for kids 12 and under. I'm being told tickets will not be sold at the door. You have to get them in advance. You can obtain tickets through a Buzz Robotics student or by emailing frc0175@gmail.com. I'll give the email again, frc0175@gmail.com. So what is a paint event? At this paint event, you work with an instructor. You start off with a blank canvas, and you'll leave with a pretty cool ocean theme painting. Once again, Saturday, February 15th, 6:30 p.m. Enfield Annex, come out and support the Buzz Robotics team. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Ungary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Brenna and her family for coming and for sharing your heartfelt concerns. I've talked to other parents, other teachers. I hear what you're saying. You're not alone. And I hope we can find some solutions sooner than later. So thank you for coming. In town, we have a Patriots Award Committee, and they also have a vacancy. And so anyone that would be interested in being on this committee can apply online through the town website. Also, I wanted to mention the Fort Chaplain's Mass. It's really a moving Mass. I've been several times in the past, and I'd like to encourage everyone to go. I also wanted to give kudos to Enfield residents. They're right on top of things. At our last meeting, I was talking about our American flag, and I transposed the number of stars and stripes. Well, I wasn't even in my car yet, and I had all these text messages. I know how many stars are on our flags, and it won't be the last time I ever make a mistake. So I just want to thank you for keeping me on my toes.
Thank you. All set, Bob? Mike? You're good? Okay, I have a couple things. Oh, Jesus, I'm sorry.
He always
Deputy Mayor
forgets me.
Pisner.
It's a bad marriage, what can I tell you? I do have a few things tonight. Again, Fort Chaplain's Mass, St. Patrick's, beautiful Mass. Please come. Coffee and donuts after. Brenna and Jose, I heard both of you. I have ties with the Enfield school system. I am really hoping and praying that we can come together with a good budget this year. I am. Okay? I mean, last year's budget had its issues, and I'm going to leave it at that. So I'm hoping we can come together. I want to do a thank you to the North Central Chamber of Commerce and our building department here. They came together last week and did a business networking. It was very well received. Hats go off to all the staff. Ray, Lori, Erin, Sheila, you knocked it out of the park. I mean, you were the highlight of the night. You had so much knowledge about the new state licensings, and people were like, oh my God, like she's really smart. Like I heard it. I heard it. And it was. I mean, Erin's applauding. It was a wonderful evening, and I hope we see more collaboration between the North Central Chamber and the town, because they worked together, and it really said Enfield's open for business. There were people who were established businesses, and there were new people coming into town. So I want to give a hats off to you guys. You did a great job. And Mayor, to our town manager, we did speak in leadership about a resolution. We talked about it at our last meeting about putting a cap on the amount of cannabis stores that can open. And John was in agreement with us as well on this. So I'm hoping that we can work and get a resolution on the table so that we can get that. We have two open. You know, we want to put something down so that, again, I'm not shy about saying it. I live up on the Long Meadow line, and welcome to Enfield is 6 vape shops. I don't want the rest of our town to look like that. Okay? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. A couple things. So I'm going to start with an apology to all the residents that use Enfield Express. I went to Enfield Express Friday to pay my taxes, and right inside the window of the drive-up was a very inappropriate sign by one of our staff members. And it basically is an insult to all the taxpayers who pay their salary, and it is demeaning, and they are in customer service, and if they don't like their job, they should resign immediately, because it's totally inappropriate that as a resident who's going to write the worst check that I hate writing in my life, my taxes, I have to see vulgarity right inside the window like that. So I'm hoping the town staff will address this, because I think it needs more than a slap on the hand. And it should also be the administrator above that person. Totally inappropriate. These people forget who they work for. They work for you, the taxpayers. Second, George, I hear your comments. Were you ever a newspaper reporter? Because you always tell one side of the story. I love it. So I'm still waiting for our coffee that I showed up for with you and your friends, and you walked out on me, okay? But I showed up. And the charter revision about the TV, you failed to mention that. I got it recorded last meeting. Everybody should really watch what happened at the last charter review. It's eye-opening. But all you said is it wasn't on the agenda. You didn't say that we actually had it recorded. So for clarification, it was recorded, and trust me, it's must-watch TV. Actually, myself and Councilman Ludwig, we are working on a deal to where this town council cannot raise taxes over 7% with it automatically triggering a referendum. So you, the taxpayers, have a say, so you never get hit with a 16% tax increase without your input, because you deserve to know what's going on here. And it passed. So that part of it passed. As far as council member salaries, it wasn't salaries, it was stipends. And when you watch the meeting, it was clarified by Lou Fiore that this council can get reimbursements. But what's the definition of reimbursement? Somebody who works and has to leave their job to go to a committee and they're short 4 hours at work. Is that reimbursable? That's what the questions were. And it died. It didn't go any farther. That's enough on that. Brenna, you have a right to be pissed. You do. And I have 12 grandchildren in the public schools. And yes, some of them are going to need special help. Nobody wants to hear about dollars and cents. They don't. But last year, this council was faced not only with the future budget, but having to clean up a past budget. And it was the largest amount of money ever given to a Board of Education in 1 year. So we didn't want to do what we had to do. And if we didn't have to take care of the previous year, they would have done a lot better. You have to look at the whole picture. The new superintendent has been transparent. He has been communicating with us. He presented a budget. I'm not saying you like it or you don't, but it was very thorough, something that all of us have been asking for because we need to see where the money's going. And he did that. And this year, I have to agree with Deputy Mayor Pisner. I think you're going to see a better outcome, because so far it looks like they are going to cover their budget without overspending $7 million. That's what happened. None of us like it. My grandchildren have talked to me too. My grandchildren went to Parkman. I understand, and I'm asking you to just please, it doesn't help your situation, but we had to take a step back, reorganize, and hopefully this year we can move forward as a town. The School Modernization Committee is also striving to address the larger classroom issues and stuff like that. We're going to be forming the committee on that tonight so we can start moving this forward and actually making changes for the better for our children. It's not what you want to hear, but that's all I can say to you and be honest about it. So please sit in on the budget meetings at the Board of Education and come to the council when we're going through our budget. I hear you loud and clear, okay? I will do everything I can do. But the only other way last year was a 22% tax increase just for the Board of Education, just to fund them. And this town can't afford that, not after the 2 previous years. So, Broadbrook Road, I believe you've been here before. And I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. What are we waiting for? Somebody to get killed or somebody else? Because I personally have seen the accidents there. And if nobody's been killed, I'm shocked. I've seen cars upside down. I've seen cars hit by cement mixers. It's a matter of time. So, John, I'm going to ask you to take off your council hat and put on your state rep hat, because I am going to use you and Councilman Hall and Senator Kissel, who hopefully are watching. We have to do something about this. Please get the DOT's attention. Mike had mentioned doing a rotary, something, but something has to change before one of our loved ones gets killed in that intersection. So, go ahead. If you have a, yeah.
No, so, sure, yes, because I drove by that accident and I could not believe what I saw. Like, it was devastating. And I know that that's not the first time. So, yeah, I mean, I will help however I can. You know, we've been trying to get a traffic light in front of the high school, so hopefully I can be more influential or convincing than other people, but it's not an easy process. But yes, I will do whatever I can.
I would think
it's helpful having somebody in the legislature on the council.
I would
right?
think. I would think working with Representative Hall and Senator Kissel, who's been there 30 years, actually working together as a group, and with the relationship that we have with the governor, I would think that we should be able to get something done, because this is ridiculous. But thank you, John. So everybody heard, John's guaranteeing a light on Broadbrook Road. You heard it here first. I'm kidding,
Ken
John.
was a newspaper reporter in his former life.
But thank you very much. And to John and Carol, if you're watching, can you please look into this also? Martin Terrace, my question would be, is Donald in the room or somebody here from DPW? No. So I know that they spoke with 4 residents on the street. Are those residents, I know one of them is here tonight, but are the other 3 who spoke in favor of it in the room? I need to know, are these additional people, or did these people also send their comments through DPW?
When we spoke to Donald this morning, he didn't receive any response of who was actually going to attend tonight.
Okay.
But he knows he distributed manually to every homeowner, and he got some emails back acknowledging it. But
And it was 3-1, 3 in favor, 1 against.
yes, I believe so.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then my last one is Lucian. I apologize. You know I support you 1,000%. I could not get out of the committee meeting we had. I would have been there. I'm at everything you asked me to go to. I don't think anybody else is worthy of the award you were given, and I want to congratulate you. Good job. Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, we will move on to the town manager's report and communication.
Good evening, everybody. A couple of items were brought up. One was in regard to the deputy mayor's request that we have sent on to the town attorney's office in regard to the number of cannabis dispensaries which were allowed in a town. You know, we went through the history where there was a limited number, then they opened it up. Mark Serrata was looking at it. I'll defer to the town attorney for next meeting, but Mark's initial review of it, he seems to believe towns do not have the authority to regulate the number of establishments. So he'll do more research and he'll let us know at the next meeting. And in regard to the charter revision, the issue had come up in regard to the desire for those meetings to be televised, and we do try to accommodate for important meetings that we think the community would benefit from seeing. So I had asked the IT director, Paul Russell, to look at the cost of it. Alex, who does the actual filming, he's available. There's another meeting before it. I don't think there will be any additional costs. We're looking at the numbers, so we're going to continue to do it. We, at the mayor's request, we did it last week when Alex said he would be available. I don't think there will be any budget impact, but if there is, we can look at it moving forward or for the next budget. But clearly, it's an important commission, and people should be able to see what the future of their government will look like. So we'll continue to film and to broadcast.
Chris, I have a question for you real quick. Alex's role within the town is getting larger. We were in a meeting the other day where, Alex does film the Board of Education meetings, and the Board of Education does handle some of our performances at Enfield High School and who should pay for what and this and that. The amount of hours that he seems to be putting in now as a part-time employee, I think there's a lot of other committees and stuff that we really could utilize him and promote other things within the community to where how much of a price difference would it be if he's interested to put him full-time, on like a salary basis, because his job is not going to be 9 to 5. He's doing it now. But I think the man does a phenomenal job. He's here whenever we call him. And we call a lot, and it's hard for him to have some sort of a life. But I want to thank him for doing it, and I think we could promote it more and make a lot more out of VTV than what we currently have.
Well, we share that view, and as you know, we've been working towards that to be a lot more present in the social media. It was interesting, we talked to Stephanie, who was a shared employee between Steve and my office, and we had sort of sporadic viewership on our town manager Facebook and our portals. Maybe a couple hundred people would be watching. Last week, she said on average for the town website, Facebook manager page, 10,000 people. So we wanted to go slowly. We did it without encumbering any other new funds or hiring people. We're doing it slowly so it's sustainable, and we'll have a plan in place with the budget to expand it further, because I think people are very appreciative. They really are dialing in, and again, we couldn't be more excited. Just a preview of our summer concert series. All of our persons and companies who donated last year have recommitted. We actually have a fourth one, so that's a robust program. And then together with the filming live, and we're going to have the equipment to do that. I just think, as Marie, you had said, we have a lot of people at home that can't go and actually watch a lot of these things. So if we're able to do the parades, perhaps the Four Chaplains Mass I've attended, it is a stirring and moving mass. Wow, I think our residents are all the richer for it. So we're going to continue to do it, and it'll be a small cost. We're very cognizant of the comments, the money that we need for education and all the other competing programs, but I think we can do it for a very small amount. We have a highly motivated employee, and as you know, if you look at the films that he's done of the business breakfast, of the river, and then the highlight reels, they're professional. People came up, and the only inquiries we had is, how much did the town spend to do those? And we didn't spend any, because we did it all in-house. So we're very proud of that, and we're going to continue, and I think our residents are appreciating it. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will have a plan in place for the budget.
Thank you. Mike? Mike has a question.
Through the mayor, I want to make sure, the original law on marijuana, I think, was 1 per 25,000. So I want to be clear for the public, which, again, that's why we didn't allow it back, and then it got overruled, and now this legislator changed the law. And unfortunately, you can have these all over, as many as you can, and no matter what your size population is. So I think, I think people need to understand, where, the town would love to do some things, but unfortunately, we're governed by higher law. And it does roll downstream. And I think, too, as we're talking, and I appreciate the, Jonathan, the manager, if we could let people know, because special education, again, they underfunded even this year what they said they were going to fund last year. So yes, I know we take the brunt of the education beating on when it comes to funding, but when you're supposed to fund something at 100% and you're funding it at 66, 60, whatever it is, That's a huge gap in anyone's budget. And yet, we never talk about it. We continue to get pounded here, yet year after year. And then the other worry is, I think, and I've heard some of this, and again, I'm not as in tune, do they take from one cost grant and move it to another? Which is the concern at the state, and I hope our state reps are listening. That's not a solution either. And so I want folks to understand that there has been some changes and why we have to deal with certain things. And we do our best here locally, but we are the ones that take the brunt when things are getting changed on other levels of government that unfortunately we don't have control over. So thank you.
All set?
Yep.
All set, Chris? Town Attorney's report.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will look into, and I'll be prepared in a couple of weeks to be able to tell you whether or not you constitutionally are able to limit some of these cannabis dispensaries, and also whether or not you may be able to use some land use boards, whether it's planning and zoning or some of those things, to restrict or limit the placement of cannabis, even though you may not be able to limit the number. But I'll be more up on exactly that, and I get the drift of where you're concerned about the public safety aspect of having too many of these in town. And we are busy with several other matters that are in litigation, so it'd be inappropriate for me now to talk about something for public consumption. But rest assured, the matters that you've been asking or calling about the last couple of weeks with inland wetlands or planning and zoning and so on, that we are in the process of, and have received good feedback from Shipman and Goodwin, who's on some of these. And also, Mark has done a great job with some of the land use boards that he's taken over to try and fill in while Maria was gone. So, but rest assured, we are up on all those. If anybody has a question under attorney-client, be more than happy to answer it, but not in public. So thank you.
On that note, Tom, if we could, if the council's okay with it, why don't we set up an executive session for the next meeting and just get a brief update on everything that's going on with litigation?
That's a great idea. Yeah, we'd be happy to do that for you.
Thank you. Mike?
Again, through the mayor to town attorney, as you're doing your research, the state limits liquor license. So is that a legislation, or is that an administrative rule versus the unlimited, which I know is the legislation? I know there's a difference, right? So when you do your research, could you check into that? Because there is a limit to liquor license that I know the state monitors.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember exactly the rules, so I apologize. I'll make sure I'm up on it next time we talk. But as you're doing your research, I mean, I hear you, but I think legislatively we have a right to limit, in my opinion. But I know you're researching, so I'm just saying there's some comparisons there to look at.
Yeah, I'll be prepared to answer that. I think just for the general public and the other members of the council, I think what they're asking basically is it a law, or is it an executive order, or is it an administrative regulation just devolved from an executive order? And with each of those, you have a greater degree of responsibility and accountability that the town council can exercise. So I'll be prepared to address that also. And actually, if anybody else has any other questions, if you shoot me an email on it with regard to that, I'd be more than happy to be prepared for that also. Thank you.
So along those lines, I don't think we have to worry about too many cannabis shops at this point in Enfield due to the fact the tax on cannabis in Connecticut is outrageous, because the comments about the one that was temporarily closed, everybody's just driving across the state line, and they're getting it a lot less in Massachusetts. So until Connecticut changes that, we're a border town, so same with gasoline. If it's cheaper, we go across the border. So, central Connecticut, maybe, I think they may have an issue, but. Okay, all set? Tom?
I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to move on to unfinished business, resolution to remove.
For special committees.
Oh, my God, I crossed it off. Yep.
No, too bad.
Reports of special committees. I'm trying.
I know you already gave the con, so we're having our next charter revision, so I don't have to get into February 13th, downstairs, 6:30, and the debates have been lively. We welcome the viewership.
Anyone else?
Me.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
Commission on Aging, I think we received an email from Attorney Serrato. They have that outstanding $10,000+ that was, okay. So pretty much the way I understood the email that Attorney Serrato sent us is that it's up to the town council to let them spend it or do. So I'm looking for a consensus up here as to, can we give them direction to say it's theirs and they can spend it as long as it's not on a salary? And not that I assume they would, but again, I know they want to give it either to the Friends of the Senior Center or maybe adult grandparents raising grandchildren, one of the committees that is under the purview of Commission on Aging. So I'm looking for some kind of a consensus so we can finally get this off their plate.
Deputy Mayor, what I might suggest is they're listening, and now that we have the legal authority that is within your scope to determine how it should be spent, perhaps we can just reach out to them, and according to what you had just said, in the line of those kind of expenditures, see what they propose. Perfect. We can let you know, and if you're in agreement, we can let them spend it the way they want, as long as it's consistent with, as you said, their charge and their other responsibilities.
I will send them out an email tomorrow and get it back to everybody here.
Cheryl can coordinate too to help you in my office to make sure we follow up on it.
Perfect. Thank you.
But before we do that, it's coming back to the council.
Yes, we'll just reach out for their suggestions. 10,000, how would they like to spend it? We'll get it to you, and then we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Right, because, as Mr. Young said, with the senior volunteer tax credit, for us to give them that money, we've got to take it from somebody else. So we could use this to help cover that cost instead of taking it from other taxpayers.
Right.
Or the pickleball court, which is 300 and something thousand.
So I didn't mean to preempt it to say you'd have to spend it on that, but let's just see what portion they would like to, and then you'll have the ultimate decision to say where it goes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Jim.
The joint facilities, just to let everyone know that the DPW is applying for the grant for Parkman School roof within the next 2 weeks. And our next committee meeting is February 13th, so after that, we'll have an update on that as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jim. Good? Councilman Sakala.
Sure, I can do one for the JFK committee. We had a meeting last week, and the chair is Randy Daigle, and he's hoping that by April we'll be able to dissolve the JFK committee. They're basically done almost everything. They're just doing some sealing and some painting. And the owner's rep and Randy they're going to have some work to do after on the final responses that they've gotten back from the states on some of the reimbursements. So that may take a little while, but hopefully they will be able to be done and dissolve that committee by about April. And I did suggest that perhaps towards that time, either Randy or the committee members can come back in front of the council and sort of just get a conclusatory wrap-up pretty quick, whether it needs to be at 6:45 or a special guest during our actual meeting. That's it.
Anyone else? Thank you, Gina. We are going to move on to unfinished business, a resolution to remove the sidewalks on the westerly side of Martin Terrace. The Department of Public Works, DPW, respectfully requests to remove the sidewalks on the westerly side of Martin Terrace, create a 5-foot snow shelf on the easterly side, and realign the easterly sidewalks to follow the road alignment. There is no budget impact. The recommendation is the council approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council allows the Department of Public Works to remove the sidewalks on the westerly side of Martin Terrace, create a 5-foot snow shelf, and realign the easterly sidewalk to follow the road alignment. Date prepared 1/16/2025, prepared by Donald T. Nunes, Director of Public Works.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Conversation, comments. Councilman Ludwig.
Again, very, very interesting. I mean, I saved for the debate here of the residents, their comments. I think there's some concern when you redo that road, you're going to have even, unfortunately, probably more problems with speed, as we've seen in other areas. And I understand the cut through because I know exactly, I've been there, met some of the residents. You know, it's curious. The road, you know, that one sidewalk on the east side is and both sidewalks are a mess. I'm curious if there's a compromise. Again, I appreciate the reference to speed bumps, by the way, too, as it's one of my baby issues since the 1990s, by the way. And is there a compromise where, you know, again, I'm not an expert, but having sidewalks on both sides of the road and that small doesn't seem logical. Or, I mean, I think there is a legitimate reason to have them on one side. Within the scope of the project and the money that's there, I wonder if there's a compromise where we could put speed bumps and have the sidewalks on one side and use that as again, the long pilot I've been hoping for we do. It really is a perfect street to do it. And it is a cut through, and we were looking at the pictures. You can see the one-way sign is covered by brush or whatever it is. I mean, that's one thing. And if maybe, I meant to look for signage when I went by. I can't remember how visible the one-way sign on the Elm Street side is, but maybe we can take a look at that. And, it's their road, they voted for it. They voted for the project, those taxpayers, it's a taxpayer-funded project. So I'm not, I'm willing to be convinced. I know I'm not sounding like I'm making a good decision here, but I think hopefully we can find a compromise, because again, this is a referendum project. And again, the whole point is to come to some, hopefully, compromise with the folks who live there. Because you're right. I mean, and I think the other issue too is they are going to have issues with speed once that road is done. And they're right. The road's a mess. I mean, it's one of those that had to be done. You'll be careful what you wish for. Now you got a brand new street, and folks are going to know it. And I mean, so it's, man, it's sometimes no matter what you do, you get stung a little bit. So I don't know. I know Donald's not here, so I'm not putting it on you.
Perhaps it'd be a good time for me to interject that I think that some of the issues that were raised haven't been raised to our level before. Right. I wouldn't want to proceed this evening until we can address it globally. Right. I think your suggestion is exactly what we were thinking, or I was thinking. Donald had said there was one individual, and then a second person has come forward, so we have at least two people. My big concern is children, school buses, and sidewalks. So unless we can address that, it all becomes moot. Right. So let us have the couple of weeks. Donald will be here next time, and we'll look at one. Also, Mr. Ludwig, we also talked about in general governance in some other areas, there is state money available for rotaries on certain intersections. We had done a study. You had promoted, why don't we pick a place and try it? Let's see if this is eligible for that and or a speed bump. We'll look at all the signage. I'd rather come back with a complete, comprehensive, that answers all the questions of the residents and you, and I think we can have that for next time.
If I can, I appreciate that, Chris. Also, I want to understand, I don't guess I'm completely understand how the bus stops too. I apologize. I know, I'm trying to think, I'm not disagreeing with the resident. Just if we could get clarification how that bus.
Yes.
Because you're right, that is where that is. If they're actually crossing the street there, even with the lights and everything, that is one of the worst crosses, going. And so we'll get that answer from the school if you don't mind. I'm sorry, I can't go back and forth with you.
Just for a clarification of what that is I'm not talking about crossing any major streets, just the Martin Terrace itself.
Yeah.
We'll look, because Donald this morning had mentioned that the gentleman, that was an issue we had. Donald thought it could be addressed, so we didn't think it was something that would stop us. But now hearing in second, and the one-way signs, and the speed bumps, and the rotary, and I'd like to look at it a little more
and the good
globally.
News, that road is probably, I know, is probably one of the worst roads that was in town. So the good news is they're going to get the good news is they're going to get a nice road. Right. So I think this is a good conversation. We appreciate you folks showing up, by the way.
Yes, we do. Yeah. And we'll address all the issues for the next meeting.
If we can't come to some sort of a resolve on this issue with safety and stuff, then I would say when they redo the road, they put the sidewalks back on both sides, but they moved the sidewalks to the edge of the road. I mean, you can make the tree belt there, but where those sidewalks run through those people's front lawn is ridiculous, and I brought this up. And so the residents on Westerly understand, DPW did not have to bring this to the council. They could have made the decision and moved on this themselves. So to say that this was, them trying to, if that was the case, it wouldn't be here at the council. But after what happened on Abbey Road, DPW felt the council should be aware and you should have the opportunity. And this is how the process should work. So we're doing it. I mean, like I said, worst case, the sidewalks end up back on both sides of the street and the street stays narrow, and that's going to help slow down traffic in itself. But we'll come up with some solution. I also know, don't we do pre-construction meetings with the neighbors before we start a road project? Right. We can't go back and forth because the microphone doesn't pick you up, so the people listening can't hear you. Right. And what was that?
No, I said, and once the decision's been made as to how we're going to proceed, then if there is a construction schedule, they meet with the residents and discuss it and post it.
Absolutely, and I want to give kudos, along with Councilman Ludwig, to Donald and DPW staff, because this is how it should work. It's just like the trash cans off of Pearl Street. Information is key, so.
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
good.
Yep.
All right, but I want to thank you all for coming out. Just keep your eyes and ears open because this isn't done. And at this point, if nobody has anything else, I'll entertain them.
So, and the next meeting is the Tuesday. So just so you know, this will probably be on our agenda, right? So this, because of it's, right? So they know, so it's not 2 weeks from Monday. It'll be the Tuesday of that week. Just so
The
you know.
day after President's Day, but I'm not sure it's going to make that agenda.
Okay, yeah.
Because we're talking,
Yeah, all right.
yeah, this may have to go to public
Got it.
safety and,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll entertain a motion to table.
So Motion. moved.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Councilman Ungary. All in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you again. Now we're moving on to 13A, consent agenda.
If I could,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I would like to, I'd like just at least to have a little conversation, remove A1, A2, A3 and A4 off the consent agenda?
Second.
No, not 2, sorry, 1, 3, and 4, I apologize. Items 1 through A1, A3, A4 off the consent agenda for discussion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor of moving them? Opposed? Okay, it passes. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which consists of A2, a resolution to appropriate remaining balance of multimedia school security grant for $69,019.61. Motion's made and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. And then we are going to go, now we're going to go to A1, which is a resolution to transfer funds from Mark Twain Congregate Living, or Congregate Meal Program of $40,300. I believe Cindy is here to give us an update, maybe a snack. We're talking about food.
I'll give you a minute.
Hi, Cindy Guerrero, Director of Social Services, Town of Enfield. So we are happy to report that the Enfield Housing Authority is going to provide us $40,300 to offset the cost of our staff doing 2 days a week of the weekday meal program at Mark Twain. Because of the cuts from the federal to the state that landed at CRT, they had to cut back on their service delivery and preparation of food. So we have taken that on, having reached an agreement with the Housing Authority. So it's covering 6 hours of our staff time and the cost of food and food supplies.
All right, let me read the resolution. because we didn't read it yet. This is a resolution to transfer funds for the Mark Twain Congregate Meal Program. Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made from Social Services Fund Adult and Elderly, Enfield Housing Authority contributions $40,300 to Social Services Fund Adult and Elderly salaries $5,100 and food $35,200.
So moved.
Date prepared 1/27/2025, prepared by Cindy Guerrieri, Director of Social Services.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Deputy Mayor Pisner.
So this is really near and dear to my heart. So I am so thankful for this. It's something I came out very vocally about when I saw that CRT was being cut. I'm hoping we can do something for our senior center as well. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you. I know the people at Mark Twain, I volunteer there, they are extremely grateful for this. And this meal means everything to them. So I just wanted to say thank you personally for anything you did to make this happen.
And I appreciate that, and thank you to the Enfield Housing Authority, because we put together a proposal. We did a cost per meal basis, and they had no qualms. So, great partnership.
Extend my thank you to Scott and his team is over there as well.
And Sherry Riddick is the
It's
new
Sherry. I know. I keep
executive
forgetting that.
director,
It's Sherry.
yes.
I apologize, Sherry.
Yes.
Please extend my thank you to her as well. Thank you.
Just one quick
Councilman
comment.
Crissati.
Yep, thank you. You know, once again, when this was brought up at our meeting in regard to this, hats off to Scott and his crew for coming up with this solution. Yep, so extend, you know, our sincere thank you to him so that we can continue this program. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Gina, did you have your hand up? No.
I was fine with this on the consent agenda.
Councilman Ludwig.
Well, I think some of these, like, this is important to let the public know, right? So that's why we took it off, because I think, again, there's good work here, and if we just put on a consent agenda, people don't realize it. And I also, too, just to inform them, I just want to make sure I read the minute, this is extended to September of '25, correct?
This is from, it started November 1st through September 30th
And so then
of
will we
25.
have to, at that point, reapply? I just want to make sure, so as we
It's
look down
not
the
a,
road.
it's not a grant, they're contributing to offset the cost of what we already do.
Yeah.
Because of the additional cost, so they're absorbing the additional cost of what we already do. For the year, it's on a federal fiscal year, so we will find out if
So,
the funding
the
is
reason why I'm
there.
asking that question, so when we get to our budget, is this where something you can at least let us know what the cost would be if it's not in your budget?
it's not, right.
Okay, could, if that, just a request to you, that's
Yes.
why I'm asking. So when we get there, if we have to extend it September to whoever that would be,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll have an idea. And I appreciate that. And again, I agree, thank you to the Housing Authority. This is great news, and that's the reason why we wanted to let the public know. It's, again, this is good work for your staff and the Housing Authority, and the public should know that.
And I'm gonna put a little plug in for the cook, because she's cooking fresh meals. The stuff that came from CRT is not always like as good as a home-cooked meal.
Yes.
So there's more residents that are coming to eat.
Oh my God, there are. I can tell you that.
So we talked about this in caucus, and this is something that deserves credit where credit's due. The Housing Authority, who would think? You know, I mean, it is eye-opening to know that the Enfield Housing Authority steps up for more than just housing. You know, people look at the Housing Authority in a certain way, and this is worthy of shedding light on what not only Scott Bertrand, but the whole committee that works to help deal with issues within our community, and to work with our own social services together, even though we're two separate issues and people don't understand, the town of Enfield has nothing to do with the Housing Authority. So this is a separate entity working within the town, or working with the town, to help pick up where, again, another program was created, people became dependent on it, they cut the funds right out from underneath you. And this happens more than often. So thank you, Cindy. I personally want to thank Scott Bertrand and his board.
Sherry Riddick.
Huh?
It's Sherry Riddick now. Sherry is now the new Scott.
Where's Scott?
He took another role. I did
Oh,
the same
Jesus.
mistake, so I just want to give credit.
I want to thank everybody at the Enfield Housing Authority. All right, but great job. Any other questions? None? Roll call?
Counselor Cruciati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
And Counselor Sakala.
4.
11 members, 4, none against.
Thank you, Sheila. Next is a request to transfer funds for Amplify Youth Cannabis Prevention Coalition grant of $57,000. Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made. Be it further resolved that any funds remaining at the end of the fiscal year 2025 can be carried forward to fiscal year 2026 from Amplify Cannabis Prevention Grant revenue, $57,000, to Cannabis Prevention Grant. Salaries, $29,402.15. Stipend, $750. Overtime, $4,000. Professional development, $2,000. And other professional services, $7,000.
No, back page. Back page.
Travel, $1,250. Advertising, $6,800. Supplies and materials, $2,947.85. And food, $2,850. Date prepared 1/28/2025. Prepared by Cindy Guerreri, Director of Social Services.
Second.
Questions? Okay, well, I'm going to have questions. Go ahead, Mike.
Do you want, I'm sorry, do you want
I
to?
can do a little update. So we have been funded by Amplify, which is a regional organization that is kind of the liaison between the towns in the region they serve and the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, focusing on mental health and substance abuse prevention. So we've already been partnering with them for many years. There is a new grant opportunity that is Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services funds going through the regions, and there are 5 regions in Connecticut. It was a competitive grant, and so our grant and performance manager, Andrea Mashak, and my prevention coordinator, Tessa Rydell, put together a competitive application, and out of the, there's a lot of towns in the North region, so we were one of 2 in our region. We're one of 10 in the state that were awarded these funds. It's going to focus a lot on we hope to prevent youth from starting to use. We know there's a different potency than back in the day, and it's more dangerous, and it has many more long-term effects. And so if we can prevent people from starting to use it, that would be goal number 1. Goal number 2 is to build the capacity of the coalition as well as the community to really work towards understanding what it is, what it can do, and how it can have negative effects. I think one of the things talking about the dispensaries is one item. The other item I think you might have been thinking of are vape shops. And vape shops can sell certain products. So it's not just the dispensaries. So we hope to counteract, 57,058 is not nearly as much as corporations have to do social marketing. But we're going to give it a shot through trying to raise awareness and education. We're partnering with the schools to do a curriculum in school, and then with the police, the overtime for police to do compliance checks at some of the vape shops.
Councilman Ludwig.
Thank you. So this is one, I have to admit, this is a tough one for me, right? because, again, it was sold, we're going to make all, expand it, and we're going to make all this revenue, we're going to do all these wonderful things because we have legalized in our town. And yet here we are, full circle, we have to use taxpayer money to prevent the abuse. When people sold it as a money-making, I'm sorry, it's no such thing. Because there is always a cost that no one ever wants to talk about, and what you're exactly doing. So what exactly will the individual, so this is going to a salary, which, so what will so when you say prevent, so in the past when we had, to prevent drinking, you would, go to the package store, make sure they were carding, those sort of things. What is the actual plan here to educate you, as you're saying, educate youth?
Right.
And does it tie into, and I apologize, maybe this is an unfair question, at one point, the Attorney General was having, I don't know what you want to call it, a investigation or emergency discussion because there's so much use. Kids were unfortunately using it more than they intended of the legalization of marijuana. Does that tie into this as well?
Well, I'm sure it's all connected.
Yes, yeah.
So there was a report, Recommendations for Prevention of Cannabis Use in Youth, that was done in January of 2023 by Demas with recommendations. And there is some information around the 25% of the tax proceeds are supposed to go towards prevention. So that was built in from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so this is, I can't speak to whether that is expressly where this money comes from, or
Right.
if it's a different line. But bottom line is we need to educate youth on what it is and how it affects them. And then we want parents and community to understand what it is and how it affects them.
And you'll do that through the schools.
And so one way is through the schools curriculum. We spoke with the principals at JFK and at the high school. And so they identified a curriculum that they had already believed would be a good one to use. So we will do that. So the salary money is offsetting the salary to the general fund for 2 of our current staff.
And so I'm going to ask you one last question, and I'll let others. And I apologize, this is going to way it's going to sound. How honest are these programs going to be on how it hurts the development of a child's brain by doing this stuff?
So the information we have is
Is it-
factual.
okay,
And
good.
we'll be using factual information. And then the other part, one of the costs in here was the 7,000 outside services. That's for the evaluator to be able to gauge the effectiveness of the
Will
curriculum.
you track this in reporting?
Yes,
And,
that's
okay,
part
so-
of the budget.
And at some point, please, again, I
Yes.
know you do a good job of, this would be part of your reporting.
Right,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Pistor.
So you mentioned that we're doing junior high and high school. I honestly think it has to go into the grammar school. I'm thinking 5th grade.
Yeah.
I'm
this
thinking
was
this is,
limited to 12 to 20.
okay. But again, I mean, in the real world, this is starting a lot younger, and especially with the fact now that it's kind of like open season because it's legal. So I remember when my kids were in school, they had the DARE program that really targeted on smoking cigarettes and drinking. But, I think this is getting, nobody wants to hear what I want to say about it. So I'd like to see it even go to younger grades. That's all I'm going to say
So we
on
do, through
it.
social services, staffing that exists through some general fund support, we are going into the schools. We've been doing vaping programs for 5th graders. So we are at least getting into that level.
All right.
Outside of a grant. We just.
All right. Thank you, Cindy.
Councilman Hendrickson.
Just a question on Amplify. This is one of the groups that we give money to in our budget also?
It
So it's
is.
not a local, or
It's a regional.
Regional.
It's regional. So
Group.
they do a lot of research, data collection, and help with the planning on a state level for what makes sense on a local level to implement. And then they determine how monies are spent based on what's going on within regions. So they're a really great support for us at that next level up.
So this is kind of what that money goes to, is just helping us with getting grants, or what exactly our contribution is to them?
The money that we provide them, I know it is
Correct.
kind of
I
complicated.
know, that's what I'm,
Right, so so every year, Social Services offers grants to local nonprofits. They apply each year, and they are funded to be that entity for us that is connected with the state directly, getting data for us, so that we're doing the right strategies. So that's their grant that we give them, separate from this grant.
So that's an ask from them, a certain amount of money they're looking for?
Correct.
That's how it was presented to us. All right, thank you.
Councilman Russo.
Who is it that's actually going to be going into the schools to teach our children?
So our prevention coordinator and our youth development worker.
Are we able to get a curriculum or plan before that occurs?
So that is that's where the curriculum was identified by the school system. And so we won't be teaching it so much as the teachers will teach it, and then our staff would be there as ancillary support.
Would it be a consistent, standardized plan for all the grades, or is it going to vary based on the age?
It's going to target, I believe, sixth graders. It's called Too Good for Drugs. It's a health curriculum, actually grades 6, 7, and 8.
Okay.
So, and again, we asked the school if they knew of something that they thought would be good, and that was what they identified, so that's what we included in the application.
Now, do we know, has this been taught, the same curriculum in other schools prior to?
I don't know all the background on it. I don't think it's used currently in Enfield, but they had identified it as a curriculum that they would want.
I just don't want to be like the test case here in Enfield and something go awry as far as someone coming in from the outside and teaching our kids and...
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be, it would be so it is a curriculum. The curriculum, I think Michelle Middleton would be the one that looks over all curriculum. It obviously has to get approved ultimately by administration, and then to be able to implement it through health class.
Right. I mean, I'd love to see the curriculum. I'll speak for myself, but
sure.
if I could get a copy or see that prior to the teaching, that'd be awesome.
Sure. But we can share what we know, but the decisions will be made by the Board of Ed staff as far as what curriculum.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? So what exactly does our staff do while the teacher's teaching the curriculum?
Well, so we don't know yet, meaning we have to learn the curriculum, but it would be to have two adults teaching one that can speak from what's the right word? Sometimes kids will listen to outside people than their teacher, and to have a coordinated effort between, this is a educational curriculum in your school, part of your day, and here's this outside person that if you have questions or you want to connect with them for more supports, that is available to them. It's almost like doing police and social work together. It's doing education and social work together.
Okay. Anybody else? Councilman Ungar.
So it's all evidence-based approach.
It's what?
Evidence-based.
Well, there is no evidence.
No, I'm saying the program.
Curriculum.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini has stepped out. Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner. 4. Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
And Counselor Sakala.
4.
10 members in favor, none against.
Thank you. Next is a resolution to authorize the town manager to sign for a Connecticut Department of Agricultural CT Grown for Connecticut Kids grant for the Enfield Child Development Center, ECDC, and to transfer funds to the ECDC from the Connecticut Department of Agricultural grant, $13,809, and to authorize that any funds remaining at the end of the fiscal year 2025 can be carried forward to fiscal year 26 and 27. Be it resolved that the town manager sign the contract for the Enfield Child Development Center from the Connecticut Department of Agricultural Connecticut Grown for Kids grant. Connecticut Grown for CT Kids. Be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made. Be it further resolved that any funds remaining at the end of the fiscal year 25 can be carried forward to fiscal year 26 and 27 from ECDC, miscellaneous state, $13,809, to ECDC, part-time salaries, $1,040. Professional services, $1,500. Student transportation, $1,100. Instructional supplies, $3,904. Equipment, $6,265. Date prepared 1/28/2025, prepared by Cindy Guerreri, Director of Enfield Social Services.
So, second.
So Amanda Lavash, and she'll forgive me if I mispronounce it, she's a manager for our before and after school program at ECDC. She went on her first grant writing expedition and she got it. So we're really excited for her and very proud of her. This is a farm to school program. So the kids that she works with, I think we're looking at like 2 groups of 20. They are going to build raised garden beds, construct an irrigation system, and it's not, one of my questions, like, wait a minute, did we have like DPW look at this? And it's really not that involved. It's like hoses and making sure that the plants get what they need. They're going to install some fencing around the garden, and then they'll grow the vegetables. We have a nutritionist that will work with them around healthy eating, and then recipes they can share with their families. There's also going to be, I think I put it in here, the Johnny's Roadside Market Garden is a local farmer who's volunteering his time to work with the kids to go through this whole process, and then the field trip to his farm.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
So I'm going to speak on this again, because again, it's intergenerational, and I love that.
Oh, that's right, because we're going to bring food to Mark.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I don't know if he wants his name, but I'm going to say his name. I think Justin at Johnny's Roadside is doing a fabulous job in our community. He stepped up, he did the Rotary Garden, he gave them plants, he gave them knowledge, he gave them time, and now he's doing this. So he's probably going to be embarrassed by me, but I think Justin Latovsky is doing a fabulous job, and I personally want to thank him for what he's doing. And I know the residents at Mark Twain are going to absolutely love this. And I know the kids love going there already. So this is a fabulous idea. Thank Amanda, you said her name was, for doing this grant and seeking it out. Again, this is the good stuff that we need to tell people in this town is happening. Instead of all the bad stuff, we need to promote the good stuff. So again, thank you, Cindy.
Anyone else? Councilman Mangini.
Cindy, I want to thank you for all your hard work and all the staff's hard work on all of the programs that we have here in town. To name one and to not name all would be a disservice. But again, you're doing a dynamite job, and along with all the workers that you have, please pass that along. Thank you.
Thank you.
All set? Roll call.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nasuda stepped out. Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
And Counselor Sakala.
4.
10 members in favor, none against.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to B, appointments, Town Council appointed, America 250 Coordinating Committee. The Enfield Town Council hereby appoints Emily Clifford, Kelly Davis, Chris Fontaine, Alex Raniello, Maya Matthews, Cindy Keeney, Shannon Esslinger, Ian Graves, and Cynthia Erskine until June 30th, 2027.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any input?
I'm sorry, on the agenda, there was a blank, and we had gone over other options during leadership. So are we not going to discuss is this blank intended to be filled in?
Yes.
With Cynthia?
Or if
Right.
you want to.
Yeah, so I want to nominate Peter Sorensen to be on this committee. Peter is the chairperson of the Enfield Historical Society, and in our caucus, we really felt strongly that in his role in that capacity, that he rightfully should sit on this committee, and we want to put his name forward for that.
Second.
And who would you want him to replace?
I think we talked about.
Cynthia?
Cynthia.
Okay.
Yeah, I was assuming it was Cynthia and Peterson are the two nominees for that spot.
Okay. Any other nominations? Any other? Motion to close nominations?
Second.
All right. All in favor of closing nominations? So we're going to have to go through this name by name.
Well, we agree on all of them, except for the last one. So I believe we can just, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask for the town clerk's
See?
opinion. Yeah.
It's
So
not
no,
that
I
easy.
think, can we go through and vote on who's going in the blank?
I
and
believe
then,
that the question seems to be, the way I understand it, who would be filling the blank, so we can just vote on those two, and then those two names, and then you would have to conduct a vote on
All
the
right.
entire, right. Just
All right. So,
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, we communicated this in our feedback from caucus, right?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we told you in caucus how we felt
No, in leadership.
in leadership.
Yes, which
I'm
was
sorry.
which was communicated. So we have not heard back. We haven't heard back from since you guys caucused after us. Okay, fine.
All right, so at this point, to fill the empty seat, by a show of hands, all in favor of Cynthia Erskine? Opposed?
It's not opposed.
Okay, and all in favor of Peter Sorensen? So 3 in favor of Peter Sorensen. Cindy, which way did you vote?
Abstain.
Cindy abstains. Okay, now I'll entertain a motion to approve America 250 Coordinating Committee with Cynthia Erskine.
Second.
How, am I saying her name right?
I would say it's Erskine. Erskine? I'm not sure.
Okay, sorry if I'm butchering your name. Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
And Counselor Sakala.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Beautiful, thank you. Next, we're moving on to the Charter Revision Committee. A vacancy exists due to the resignation of Seth Klaus. Republican recommendation is Rob Anderson until 11/4/2025. Seth has sent along, he apologized. I don't think he needs to apologize. Health has kind of thrown him a curveball, and he's going to be going through a tough couple months. And I appreciate him stepping up when he did. I understand life changes, and we have to deal with those changes. I appreciate him stepping aside so we can put somebody on and we can move this forward, because we all know time is very limited to get this on November's agenda. So thank you, Seth.
So moved.
Any other nominations? Motion to close nominations.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor of closing nominations? And I'm just going to do a show of hands. All in favor of Rob Anderson? Opposed? Okay, 4 opposed. Congratulations, Rob. I know Rob will do a great job. Enfield Beautification Committee, a vacancy exists due to the resignation of Marilyn Sorensen. Recommendation is Betsy Pelletieri until 12/1/27.
Second.
Any other?
Second.
All in favor of closing nominations? Mike was the second on that one, Sheila, if you didn't hear him. Okay, all in favor of Betsy Pelletieri? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Congratulations, Betsy. Next is Ethics Commission. A vacancy exists for a member. Recommendation is Kyle Burns, Republican, until 10/31/2026.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor of closing? Okay, all in favor of Kyle Burns? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Congratulations, Kyle. Next is the Ethics Commission. A vacancy exists for a member. Recommendation is Keely Olette Danis. Danis, am I saying that right? Danis? Democrat, until 10/31/2026.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of closing nominations? Opposed? All in favor of Keely Danis? Opposed?
Sorry, I'm in favor, sorry.
Gina? Okay. It's unanimous. All right, next is Joint Facilities. A vacancy exists due to the resignation of Timothy Neville, Democrat. Recommendation is Emily Clifford, Libertarian, for a life term.
So moved.
Second.
Move the close nominations.
Second.
All in favor of closing nominations? It's unanimous. And all in favor of Emily Clifford. She does a phenomenal job on cultural arts, and I think she'll be a great asset to this committee. Next is the Pre-K through 5 School Modernization Pre-Referendum Committee. The Enfield Town Council hereby appoints Randy Daigle, Republican, and Christine DeBoone, Democrat, until 12/1/2025.
Move to close.
Second.
Yep.
All in favor of closing nominations? Okay. All in favor of Randy Daigle and Christine? It's unanimous. Congratulations. And Chris, on that, if we could send a, some sort of get a organizational meeting together, send it to the Board of Education with the council members, which will be Councilman Crisati, Councilman Sakala, Councilman Russo, and Councilman Nasuda. And then the Board of Education has to put their group to it with Randy and Christine. And if we can get the organizational meeting set up as soon as possible, we have to get this ball rolling if we want to make November's deadline. So I would say just ask the board who their members are and who the administrators are that are going to be on this. Okay? Thank you, Chris. Next is a resolution revising the property maintenance ordinance. Be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council approves the property, or the proposed amended property maintenance order, Chapter 14, Article 4, Section 14-171 through 14-210, date prepared 1/13/2025, prepared by the Office of Economic and Community Development. Well, welcome.
Thank you. So Christy Coyston, Community Development Specialist. So first I'm going to give a quick background on the property maintenance ordinance, since we haven't discussed this in a bit. So the property maintenance ordinance was originally adopted in October of 2003. So this has been in effect for over 20 years. There have been numerous revisions since then, with the ordinance last being reviewed in its entirety back in Oh, sorry, just kidding.
Sorry, through the mayor. Did anyone, you got a second on that, right? You want to make sure, I know I saw your face.
I did not get a motion or a second. If it was
Second.
made, I
Yeah,
missed it.
Second. Sorry. Just
No,
wanna
no
make
worries.
sure
I'm glad you
everything-
caught me now. So last fall, the Blight Review Committee submitted recommendations to the current ordinance, and it went through your town council's revisions and the public review as well. There was a public hearing that took place back in October of 2024, and the copy in front of you in your agenda packet includes your recommendations, excuse me, from previous meetings, and it has also been reviewed by the town attorney's office and incorporates their comments as well. So I have a quick little list of some of the major changes that are included in these revisions. So first off, there was just general cleanup of the document, including the blight violation definitions. And blight will be enforced only if you can view it from a public way. So roads, sidewalks, public property, parks, etc. Blight will not be enforced if it is only seen from an adjacent property or private property. A violation was added that includes motor vehicles and boats that are not parked in a legal parking space, driveway, or behind the front lines of any dwelling on the property or on the premises, which is the portion of the dwelling that is closest to the street. So that is a new violation that was included. Fines will also be increased from $75 a day per violation to $100 per day per violation. And one of the last major changes was when violation fines reach $10,000, warning notices will begin to be issued to property owners to advise foreclosure can occur when fines reach $20,000. And I just want to let residents know that our current internal property maintenance process is going through an update as well. Additional steps will be added that encourages communication between the town staff and property owners in violation. This will help achieve compliance before the town has to take any additional actions, including fines, liens, and in extreme cases, foreclosure. And I'm currently finalizing some easy to follow like timelines and kind of a chart for people to understand that we'll be getting out to the public once it's finalized. Also, we're going to be creating these door handles that are going to be going on properties that are in violation. Pretty much the inspector is going to say the date, the address, and really check off what violation is outstanding. And then they have the contact information to please contact our property maintenance inspector as soon as possible to get this taken care of. So really, hopefully it stops us even having to send out notices and having more of a communication with staff and property owners. So we have their contact information. We can reach out to them if anything happens in the future. And really just to advise people what the process is. On the back, it goes through step by step on what we do. Really, it's all about educating the public on this. I know a lot of people have stated in the past that they didn't even know that we have this ordinance out. So it's really just getting everyone on the same page and understanding how we can stop blight going forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just want to say thank you to you and the Blight Committee, John. I know we've got a lot of time tied up in this. We may not agree on everything, but I think it's a good compromise because I have a feeling in the next couple of years we're going to be dealing with a bunch of bank properties again, and the banks are very difficult and just don't maintain their property. So, Christie, thank you. Aaron, thank you. Any other questions? Councilman Ludwig.
I just want for the public, thank you for doing this. Two key points. Also, it's not unanimous, so someone has to file a complaint.
Oh, anonymous, yeah.
Yeah,
correct.
so it's not unanimous.
Anonymous.
I knew what you meant, yes.
Sorry.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure. And then, I'm sorry, just clear. So after someone's, we do an inspection, when would actually someone start to get fined? How many, if nothing happens, how many days?
So technically, the first step, notice-wise, is a notice of violation. If it is grass or trash, they have 10 days to correct that, or a citation notice will issue. That's when the fines begin. If it is any other violation other than trash and grass, they have 30 days to correct it once the notice of violation goes out before they begin receiving fines.
Does it mean if they're talking to, your staff and whatever, but maybe they don't, they do it in 32. I'm just saying, is there?
Yeah, there's.
As long as they're working with you folks, right?
That is
Okay.
correct. Yeah, this is more so for the people that ignore our notices,
Got
don't
it.
sign for anything, don't care really, and we definitely work with people. That's why we're making it such a point now to get in communication with the homeowner, where if they're saying, hey, you know, my wife was just in the hospital, or if they're having any kind of issues going on at home, we're working with them. We're not just, we don't want to make money out of this.
Just want to reassure the public. I mean, it's so important. 'Cause
Yes.
I mean, look, I'm afraid of, big government myself, and, and that's what I just want people to realize. So I know you guys did a good job. You cleaned all this up. You took all our, I think, 20 recommendations, whatever it was at the time. So I appreciate it. And, again, I just want to reassure people that, again, this is meant to get you compliant.
That's it. We want to work with you. We want to help you if there's any programs that we can introduce you to.
Again, thank you for both you and Aaron. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Hendrickson.
Just one quick question on the door hanger. Is that if that's put on the door, is that the only way they're notified?
So
Or
this is
because
kind
that
of.
flies off. I've done a few.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing that's in the ordinance. It's not a actual process we have to go through or anything like that. It's just more so our way of communicating with homeowners. So we'll take a picture of it, hope for the best. If it says contact us within 5 days. I mean, if it flies off, hopefully it's still in the yard,
That's not the only way they're going to get notified.
Oh, no,
That's
100%.
That's all.
That is
that's
to
all.
notify the owners that the town was at the property right off the bat. And then if they find a finding, they'll send a notice. But this is, so if you're looking at your camera and you see the town of Enfield, taking pictures of the front of your house, that will explain why they're there, which I think is huge. Because one, we shouldn't be going in people's yards, especially unannounced, and this takes care of a lot of that. And another big issue that the council has helped us deal with is people would get the violation, they would correct it, but they were unaware they had to call and get it re-inspected, and the fines went on for years. And you guys were great straightening out a lot of that, but we've also addressed that, so there will be notices and phone numbers and stuff informing them to do that. Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Russo.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
And Counselor Sakala.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Next is a resolution to authorize the town of Enfield to apply to CTDOT for rails with trails. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council authorizes staff to make application for a rails entry permit or license from the Connecticut Department of Transportation, bless you, Rail, Property, and Utilities Unit for the purpose of determining the design and development of a rail with trail project. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council also authorizes the town manager or his designee to sign this application. Date prepared, 1/29/2025, prepared by Aaron Markovich, Director of Economic and Community Development.
So moved.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions? Councilman Mangini.
I, at this, excuse me, at this time will not be supporting this, only because I haven't seen this come before this council. I'd like more information, such as, is there a cost, which obviously is a cost to everything, like Councilman Ludwig said earlier. And I'd also like to know where exactly is this running from and to. I'd like to know what is generating the sudden resolution. So that'll be my position. If we want to table it until the next council,
Or if you want him to explain it.
I do appreciate that, Aaron, but I am very uncomfortable with the resolution being brought forward like this. But again, thank you for coming and explaining.
So Aaron, just explain that this is to come up with a design plan where it starts, where it ends, this and that. It's
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. So what was going on is there was, as you all have heard about the Armory Branch line, and could that become a rail trail? How would that work? The general pushback was it's not going to become a rail trail, period. That's the end of the conversation. I dug in a little bit deeper and connected with a gentleman, Matthew Sniffen. I just enjoy saying his name. And he said you need a rail access permit in order to even figure out the design of anything, period. Okay, how long does that take? That could take upward of a year to get approved. And really what this does is it gives us the ability that if we were able to find funding for the design, which we don't even have that funding necessarily in place, that would have to be grant funded. Once we would have that, we would then be able to have somebody go out and take a survey and do the drawings and all that sort of thing. But there's such a long time horizon to even get that approved that it made sense. He made the recommendation to us, just put in the application, and the idea was to put in that application because it'll take a while to get approved. The intention here is to come up with a design. He basically said that the RFP and the response that they have from DOT is to continue to operate this line as an active spur, which currently reaches about to Moody Road currently, although he proposed that there is a potential client right at the state line, some sort of recycling facility or something. And so they're interested in being able to have that line stay open, but the right-of-way itself is over 80 feet wide, and therefore there's plenty of room for a primary spur line and a secondary trail next to it. And in talking with the Capital Region Council of Governments, they have a design that they're using in Plainville right now that would be that rail with trail. It's a little different than rails and trails or rails to trails. So that's the idea that we'd like to pursue, but we can't even pursue it until we have an access permit. It's just one of those kind of long ahead of time things.
And what is the cost for that?
I have to confirm with you. I want to say that it was 500, 250, 250. There we go. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you for your explanation. Again, from where to where is this trail or rail?
Sure. And that would have to be something that we define in the design process. The intention that I've heard from council over the years and from people that are interested in this topic would connect with the existing East Longmeadow Trail all the way through East Windsor potentially. Now we'd have to get East Windsor. They seem to be on board, but all the way down to the South Windsor line. What Mr. Sniffen said is that South Windsor, that's where the spur becomes a lot more active. And so at that point, it would likely have to stop there somewhere at a trailhead or something. There's a lot of design questions, a lot of engineering questions that would have to be answered.
Okay, and I think the confusion for me is they want to put, or the proposal is to put a walking or running bike, what have you, next to a train track?
That's correct. It's not common, but it's not uncommon either.
Why would we do
Western
that?
Maryland Railroad does this with their tourist railroad. They actually will put a fence in between. You have to have a large enough right-of-way. We obviously know that there's a pinch point right at the Scantic River where that bridge is, which, much to my surprise, he says is in perfect operating condition.
Get that in writing.
Hey, I hear you. So there would have to probably be a pedestrian bridge there. There's a lot of design questions. And, we don't actually, at the end of the day, even know that we can pull it off because we don't even have access to be able to measure it and figure that out.
My observation of the East Windsor area is that it's in very poor condition and at the point where it's dangerous. So why would we even go forward?
So the DOT has released and has a potential or has approved a new vendor, I'm not using the right language there, who will be taking over this particular spur line. The previous one sat on it for God knows how long and really didn't do very much with it. And so this new one, they feel very enthusiastic, will be repairing it and putting it into service. It's intended to be a very low traffic, less than 20 mile per hour line with potentially one or two cars per month max. So he feels this is the kind of line that works well with a rail with trail.
Thank you for your explanation.
Councilman Crisati.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron, for your explanation in regard to the rail with trail. I think I've been on the walking path from East Windsor to Enfield, and that's in real rough shape. So there's a new private operator now?
Or they're signing the agreements with them.
Okay. Well, I would like to hear from that private operator what his actual commitment first before I'm going to say yay or nay to this particular project. A few years back, we had a real nice project, Connecticut River Access Project, that was approved, and then at the last minute, it was not taken well advantage of, and the project got nixed. All right, so there was a nice bike path that would have started up from the square all the way down into the river, a walking bridge, and right across to where the boat launch is right now. That was a great project. Once again, didn't want to spend the money. Our commitment from the town didn't want to spend their commitment. And we're going to run into this same situation again. I heard a figure of $2.2 million that the town technically could be responsible for if we were going to be doing this trail area. It's just not like a quarter of a mile, expense that we're going to do. We don't know what the funding's going to be. I would like to, before we even come up with anything in regard to paying this $250 fee, have somebody come in, give them their presentation and what their intentions are, because if we're going to go through all this work and like you just said, who knows if it's even going to happen. So I would just assume, I am not in favor of saying yes at this point in time in regard to this rail with trails until we get a little more information in regard to the funding and as to the, what this cost is going to be, what type of design, and what that cost is going to be before we make a commitment.
And just two quick responses. One is that we can't even determine the cost and the design until we have access to the land. So that's sort of the intention here.
Yeah.
In terms of the operator, I completely hear you about the question of what their intention is. I'm only going based on what Mr. Sniffen said, which was the RFP included the requirement that the operator work with entities that are interested in trails. And that was his recommendation.
I will just interrupt at this juncture because we could talk till midnight about this and no more than we know right now. This is only because Aaron, he tries to track down like a bloodhound every single grant, every kind of funding source, anything available. And there's been such interest in this over the years. He's tracking it down. Really what this is, it'd be like saying, well, we want to spend $250 to get a placeholder if the World Expo comes to Enfield in 2050. And it may, but this ticket won't get you anything other than you can then spend the $5,000 for the real ticket in your house. This is really almost a complete and utter waste of time. However, there is a meeting with CROG. Representative Hall's been working hard. Other state senators with Kissel and the reps in East Windsor. So there was a meeting. Carol wasn't able to make it. It's going to be rescheduled. So we could have a bigger presentation. I've had them. I've had the commissioner of DOT come and address this. We can't solve it tonight. And I understand what you're saying, Cindy, and you too, Bob. This isn't going to tilt the scale one way or the other. It just gives an opportunity for $250 to put that ore in the water and say if all these other things do come and we do find millions to build it, then maybe we'll have the magic ticket to say, okay, we can get on the property to do it all 5 years from now. I was hesitant to put it on, but we've had a lot of people who really are interested in this, so we didn't want to leave any stone unturned. But I would have no worries, Bob or Cindy, that in our lifetime that this is going to come to fruition. That's my gut on this project.
Go ahead.
I think it's worthy, but there's just so many between the DOT and the federal government has to abandon it. It takes an act of Congress. You've got this guy who's building, who spends $1, waits, then he spends $5. Please, I don't think we should give any more. You probably have a lot of important things you'd like to do at home, and I don't think this is going to change it much. So why don't we, I think we should just apply for it. It isn't going to commit us, and then we'll continue, and after the next meeting happens with all the reps and the people, we'll have somebody come as a special guest and give you an update as to the overall project.
Mike.
Right, but I also think we did pass a resolution to apply for this back in 2021.
Did we?
Yes, we did, and it didn't go anywhere because I agree. You know what? If they just went out to bid, so this is important for the public to understand because you're right. The federal government has to get rid of the line. You know, they have to abandon it, whatever technical term. They have a new leasee or leaseor depending on your term, and so whether the project goes forward or not, this is when we should tell them, well, we're not just going to allow you to put a rail in there. And if, at the very least, if there is going to be no development, then it should be a trail at some point. So by doing this for $250, and by the way, I appreciate your word salad, because what's on our border is not a recycling plant. Okay, but that's fine. Again, I appreciate it.
I don't know what it is.
No, I agree. And I think it is important that we do this because we did pass a resolution in 2021 because we wanted, at that point, that the former leasee was actually, the state was deciding what they were going to do with it. It took a year, I think, for them to go through that whole process, maybe longer. And, you know, I'm for a trail, but I'm willing if I can get at least a rail to trail. Because again, opening up that line, again, we need, whether it happens tomorrow or happens 10 years down the road, we need to be clear that it's just not going to be a rail. And we want to, I agree with you because if that's what happens, that bridge alone, we've got to get in writing. Someone says it can hold a 100-ton train and be safe. I'm sorry, I'm not an engineer, but I want it in writing because I'm not going to be here in 10 years. So I think my point is this is very important, and I'm glad you're doing this because it's reaffirming that part of town, that again, if the rail is eventually going to come in, and I agree, it's going to take many different things, but there are folks who are actually making some money on that over there to get a rail into town. So let's say, look, yeah, okay, we're willing to work here. We want a trail as well.
Yep.
And I think that's why this is very important. So I'm not disagreeing with the town manager. I'm just saying this is when we tell the state, because you're right, they just went and went out to bid. We want a trail. Okay? And if it costs me $250, we'll find it somewhere else in the budget. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Who knows? We could get a grant for $2.2 million and put it in because this is working with another town, so it'd be a regional trail with East Windsor and East Long Meadow, and this is what everybody wants. So stranger things have happened. I mean, that's not out of the ordinary. And for $250, if anything, it keeps the speed down when they do truck all that trash from East Long Meadow through Enfield, because that's what this is all about. Okay, I'll do anything I can do to stop that. So, all in, roll call.
Councilor Crisati.
No.
Councilor Hendrickson.
For.
Councilor Ludwig.
For.
Councilor Mangini.
Against.
Councilor Nasuda.
For.
Mayor Nelson.
For.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Councilor Russo.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
And Councilor Sakala.
4.
8 members in favor, 2 against.
Okay, thank you. Next, moving on, items for discussion.
What about the master? You got E. You got E.
Oh, I'm looking right at it.
You are.
All right, resolution authorizing the town manager to enter into an agreement with the state of Connecticut for the master municipal agreement for right-of-way projects. Resolved that the town manager or his designee is authorized to enter into and amend contractual instruments in the name and on the behalf of the town of Enfield with the state of Connecticut for the master municipal agreement for right-of-way projects, subject to review by the town attorney and to affix the corporate seal. Date prepared, 1/30/2025, prepared by the town manager's office.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call. Oh, Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. through our mayor to our town manager. Chris, again, this is a very large, thick packet, and I'm sure it's just for reference, but we already, by reading part of this, it appears that we already have that agreement, and this resolution is just council endorsing that we have the agreement with the state. Is that correct?
This agreement, and as you said, you're right, they can be voluminous. We do have the town attorney review them, but the state doesn't entertain any changes anyway. So it's what you see is what you get.
So it's just procedural, in other words?
Yes,
Okay.
we have these and we renew them every so often, but what it does, load SIP money, other money that comes through, and our rights of way, they could be severely delayed, or we would be ineligible if we didn't have the right-of-way agreement giving the state permission to go and tend to their property for us. So it's standard. Town attorney has looked at it, and again, it's subject to their review, but we have very little latitude. But it's procedural.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All set, Cindy? Anyone else? Roll call.
Councilor Crisati.
4.
Councilor Hendrickson. 4. Councilor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Councilor Russo.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
And Councilor Sakala.
4.
10 members in favor, none against.
Thank you. Next is items for discussion. Seeing none. Any other business proper to come before said meeting? Seeing none. And public communications. Anybody? George, come on up.
Well, I wouldn't normally come back, but I want to comment a few things that I know we had a discussion many times about meeting for coffee, for example, but you pretty much know that I'm there at 8 o'clock, and I usually leave at 9 o'clock. So any day, you mentioned that you don't get up that early, so it's hard to have coffee with you if you don't get up. But we can always reschedule it if that becomes important. Tell me any comments. I don't want you to take them personal, but you are the one that brings them up, so I have to address you on the comments. As far as the stipend goes, you were the one that proposed a stipend for the elected officials, and I'm against stipends because we have a lot of volunteerism in this town, and unless people are employees, and there's money in the budget for stipends for many, many employees, but not for elected officials. However, there is a fund in there already that says you can get reimbursed for out-of-pocket expenses. I think that covers it versus giving you a specific amount to take care of you. Thanks for letting me know about the streaming. I was not aware of it, even though I did see all the January 30th minutes, which were going to be published when it gets done. I did make an effort to find this meeting. I did not find it, even though I found streaming from other departments in other towns regarding the budget revision, the charter revision committee. But I couldn't find ours, so maybe I didn't make enough of a good look to find it. But my point there was it should have been done in September of '24. Before this all happened, it should not have even been a discussion at your meeting. So that's where my point was. I think that pretty much takes care of it, but I appreciate you bringing the fact up that it is approved already, and that was where my comment said it could be approved and funded if it has not already been done separately by the council, and I presume you must have done it in a separate way to budget the money for this. Also, I'm glad that they finally did the property maintenance agreement. I know they've been working on it for many, many months, so that's finally come to a fruition. So I'm glad to see that. That's probably about it. But thanks for your time and coffee.
Anyone else? Sir.
Eric Druin, 221 Broadbrook Road. Just to follow up on the rail trail, again, you bring up a good point. It's not a recycling facility. It's a construction debris. It's trash coming through Enfield on a train that burns diesel. So if you want to look at it from an environmental justice standpoint, the state's big on that. Where's our environmental justice? Give us a trail, some healthy walking. Run the train at night. Won't have any collisions with people walking the trail during the day. This is very simple. This isn't that hard. $250. We're at step 2. It's a 99-step process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. Councilman?
I know we want to leave. I forgot one request. Can we have a WPC meeting just to go over where we are with the sewer change? I know Mr. Wilcox has already left, so I'm not sure if we have any look where we're at with that. That's my only
Well,
request.
we had asked.
Yeah,
We talked about it, and Chris was, the problem is not all residents are billed the same time, so they wanted to get the whole town in. And if you look online and stuff like that, I mean, the residents are going at each other because a lot of the residents, their bills went down because it's one or two people in the house. Residents, with 2 to 4 people, their bill's about the same, and larger families, their bill went up. And that was the intent of this. You use more, you spend more. I mean,
Yeah, my only concern is if we have the wrong rate.
that's why
That's my
they're.
only concern, so
Yep.
that's why.
I have John monitoring that very closely. And again, we don't have all the data yet because I've asked him every week because obviously it's a big concern with the budget coming up. So as soon as we have numbers, I will share them.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second.